Hey
Hello.
Peter, how you doing, buddy?
Just give me 1 second here.
For sure.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Am I coming through?
Okay, I can't hear you. Just give me 1 second here.
No problem.
Can you try talking again?
Yeah, absolutely. Is it coming through?
Yeah, it's come through.
We got it. All
There we
right.
go.
How you
Perfect.
doing, Peter?
Not too bad, Scott. Thank you for jumping on here today. Just wanted to thank.
Absolutely, buddy.
So
Excited
yeah,
to talk some Jays.
yeah. So pretty much wanted to talk some Blue Jay baseball. Been wanting to do this for a long time, so. Uh, yeah, just wanted to say thanks for the
Well, absolutely. Glad to be here. And honestly, man, you couldn't have picked a better time to do it. I mean, outside of this four-game losing streak.
yeah. So pretty much, I'm like, yeah, sure. With the 4 game losing streak, better timing, but with it's my favorite time of the year. Trade
Oh, heck yeah.
deadline, trade deadline season is far and away my favorite time.
I get a little obsessive. I have refreshed Jeff Passan's Twitter account about a million times a day over the last 3 days. It's getting a little ridiculous.
Yeah. So I got a bevy of topics. I did set a few things up ahead of time. Call me the
Perfect.
king of preparedness and
I like it.
all of that. Um, so as we start, how do you view the starting rotation? And are you looking to add to it?
So I think the starting rotation has been, what's the best way of putting it? Acceptable. They
Acceptable?
have kind of been what they've had to do to get to where this team is at. And I think that each starting pitcher has kind of taken their turn being dominant and being very good. Do we have a bona fide ace? I think that that's probably the thing that lacks the most in this rotation, and it's pretty well documented. Everyone's kind of talking about it. Is that available though? Right? So like you look around at all the teams that are probably sellers right now, and yeah, there's a few names out there. Do you want to take a risk on a Sandy Alcantara? I mean, I love the idea of an Alcantara ad maybe in the off season, right? Where you kind of got some runway up to get this guy back to where he was. You are taking a bit of a risk going out and getting Sandy with the amount of prospects that it's going to take to get him, and then expecting him to kind of be that dominant ace at the front of a rotation for these last 2 months. I'm not saying it's not possible,
Right.
but you're definitely taking a risk. Now, is Minnesota going to give up a Joe Ryan? Like that's the guy I want.
Yeah.
I just I just don't know how pricey it's going to be and if there's going to be a team that gets in on it. I do think that if there is a bidding war, it's probably more likely, like if the Blue Jays see that the Yankees are going hard after it or the Red Sox are going hard after him, it might be within their best benefit to just buck up, not only because they
Right.
need that guy, but also to avoid having him on a competing division team. So we'll see how it all plays out. But yeah, I do think that starting pitching is fine if they can't get that top guy, right? So, like, I don't think they need to go out and just spend prospect capital to get a number four. I
Right.
think that they probably have the depth to carry them to the end. That said, pitching, 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 right? So, like, maybe we do see them
You
bolster just
can't
the
go
depth of it.
wrong. You can't go
Yeah.
wrong with the amount of pitching that you'll need to get to the postseason and then succeed
Hmm.
season, right? So the way I look at it, I'm just gonna be bold and say Sandy Alcantara is my number one target.
And I like that. I do like that. Like, listen, I really do like Sandy. There is just probably more risk attached to him than some of the other top end guys on the market. If you're out there looking for at a Mackenzie Gore or a Joe Ryan, you could probably expect them to be plugged into the rotation and be that guy. Whereas Sandy, there is a little bit. I totally believe he's that guy next year, right? Like, any dude coming off of Tommy John surgery, it always is kind of rocky that first year afterwards. And so that's just kind of where Alcantara is at right now. I would still be thrilled if they went out and did it.
And with Alcantara, I bring it back to Jose Barrios,
Hmm.
right? So when Jose Barrios was traded to the Jays, he had 6 starts, if memory serves, that he had provided under 3 earned runs.
Hmm.
I could be wrong, but with how Alcantara has pitched within the last 10 games,
Hmm.
he has had 3 bad starts and 7 quality starts.
And his strikes are up. Like
And his strikes
his strikeouts are up, I should
and
say.
his
Yeah.
strikeouts are up. So that's the reason why I'm leaning more Alcantara because we don't know what Miami wants,
Hmm.
right? And it
Edward
brings me
Cabrera is another guy that's an interesting name on that Marlins
and
team.
the reason why I'm going Alcantara over Cabrera is I like Alcantara's upside over Cabrera in the
Yes.
postseason, right? With Cabrera, we don't know how the lights are when the lights are the brightest,
Hmm.
right? And everyone looks at Kevin Gausman as the example here. With the Blue Jays in like three years or 2022, I believe he joined, he has provided over 6 earned runs collectively over 3 starts in the postseason,
Hmm.
right? So is that the comparable between him, Alcantara, and Cabrera, right? I'm just trying to make sense. If
Yeah.
if the lights are the brightest and you know a certain starter is getting shelled in the postseason, how do you shelter that starter from being overwhelmed and being over what's the word? Over examined?
Hmm.
Or forget the word, but uh
No, I do get what you're saying here, Peter, and I think it is a very good point when it comes to how guys perform when the lights are brightest and in those big moments and those pressure-packed scenarios. You are kind of rolling the dice a little bit when you're going to these teams like Miami and even the Twins, right? Like the
mhm,
nice thing with the Twins is that you know guys like Johan Duran and Joe Ryan have been there before, right?
right.
Because they have been contenders in that division numerous times over the last couple of years. So you know that they have that
And
experience
they knocked out the Blue Jays.
and they knocked out the Blue Jays. Whereas you look at Miami and you're like, I don't know. Like I
Yeah.
know that they were a playoff team a few years ago, but yeah.
For me, it all comes down to price,
Hmm.
right? With Duran, with Ryan. We'll get to the relief pitching market in a sec, but uh, it all comes down to price. With the Marlins, that's why I'm looking at specifically 2 guys from the Marlins. Sandy Alcantara, Anthony Bender on the relief pitching side.
Hmm.
If you look at Anthony Bender's stats, he looks a lot like Anthony Bass when he
Hmm.
initially joined the Jays. Before what happened there, right?
Hmm.
His ERA ballooned, and with how much volatility things are, things happen, right? So we'll get to the relief pitching market now. And
Before we shift gears,
okay,
I'm just curious your thoughts. Do you give up your number one prospect? Do you give up Arjun Namala if it gets you Sandy Alcantara?
no.
Okay.
So I made a trade proposal, actually, honestly, on my Twitter last night. And the package that I have for Sandy is surrounded by Ricky Tiedemann.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm going Ricky over Arjun or Trey Because I think Ricky Tiedemann also needs a change of scenery. And because of how riddled he has been with injuries since joining the Jays organization, he reminds me a lot like of Chris Carpenter,
Hmm.
right? And when Chris Carpenter was
That's a
with
more positive name to mention than Nate Pearson. I was worried where
and
you were going. Yeah.
and when Chris Carpenter left with all of the injury issues, he went to St. Louis, generated a Hall of Fame career. I believe he's in the Hall of Fame. I could be wrong, but Chris Carpenter, one of my favorite players of all time. So,
Yeah, he had a great career. The guy was a
but
stud.
yeah, that's where my comparison with Ricky comes in, is that between him and Aurelvis Martinez are the two prospects that I'm dangling the most because I do believe they are two prospects that I do believe need changes of scenery.
You're probably right. I just wonder if, in the case of Alcantara, yeah, or even if we're talking Joe Ryan, or God, if Mackenzie Gore was available, I'd give it all away. But I do wonder if you had to only give one of Tiedemann, Yasavich, Namala up, but they got to pick. Like I almost have a hard time saying no to whoever they choose. Because really, even in a case like Yasavich, and listen, I am aware of this guy's ceiling, right? He is an absolute stud. He has moved up the ranks in the Blue Jays farm system very quickly this year. He started in Dunedin. He's in Double A right now. He's still doing quite well. He's had a few starts where he's had bumps in the road, to be expected for a 22-year-old who's in Double A for the first time. But what is your hope out of Trey Savage? Like, what is your ceiling on him? Because if in my case, I'm kind of like, you know what? If the best case scenario is he turns into Joe Ryan or Alcantara,
Yeah.
I'm almost prepared to, in a world where windows do exist and you do kind of need to like ride that wave when you're hot, maybe going in, pushing your chips in right now where this team is at as one of the top teams in all of baseball, it might be worth it to go for it now instead of continuing to build for the future. And if you only need to give up one of those guys, like it starts to get dicey if you're like piling Yasavich and Tiedemann and you start getting, if you need to give up three or four top 10 guys, that gets pricey.
So with Trey Savage, I honestly have him as my only untouchable prospect.
Okay.
The reason why I have him as my untouchable over Namala, only because we don't know Bo Bichette's future.
Hmm.
And that, with Bo Bichette's future in question, we don't know if a contract extension is going to be filed or anything along that line. I want to see within the next 2 weeks, right now during this period, if a Bo Bichette contract extension comes into play.
Interesting. You think they might be doing this mid-season?
Yes. And that's the whole reason why I think Arjun Namala's name is being floated around right now. Is that I think they're close on a Bo Bichette contract extension.
Interesting. I just wonder if, I mean, honestly, even if Boba Fett is signed for 10 years, which I don't think is the type of contract he'll get, I think that he's probably closer to the Willie Adames, which I could be right out in left field right now with, but I do think that Bo profiles more as that 7, 8 year guy for 180-ish than he does the 10 to 12 Trey Turner
Yeah.
kind of like, and we'll see,
We'll
right? I
see.
understand he's 27 and young, and there's all this, there's a lot that goes into this, and I'm bad with contracts. Whenever I predict one, I'm always, I'm off. So I am interested to see where he lands. But I feel like it would need to be one of those 10-year deals for him to skip free agency. So, but it is an interesting theory. But my point is, Arjun Amal is 19. What
Yeah.
if he doesn't even make his debut until he's 24, which is still very young, and making a debut before, let's say, the best player in all of baseball, Aaron Judge, who got his start at 25. I do wonder if maybe by that time at 31, if Bo Bichette does profile more as a guy who moves to second, and then you still have that guy.
Yeah.
That said, in my books, nobody's untouchable. I people get annoyed with me with how quick I am to get rid of a prospect. I'm just like, it's a 20% chance they ever pan out. Let's move it for a guy who's proven himself now. Not always the way to operate, obviously. I mean, look at what happened with the Juan Soto deal and where the Nationals are at right now with James Wood and CJ Abrams and Mackenzie Gore, right?
Yeah.
So,
To
yeah.
quote Steve Nangle, prospects are like magic beans. You don't know what you got until you got it,
Yeah,
right? So
100%.
so with that being said, that's the whole reason why I'm floating around Arjun Amala just because
Mhm.
of the Bo Bichette
Mhm.
question. Um, Now with Trey Savage, you brought up a question. Who I see profiling as like a Joe Ryan or like a pitcher specifically in the majors. There's one guy who I'm looking at on the San Diego Padres that the Blue Jays have been interested, and that's Dylan Cease.
Mhm.
That's who I look at as the comparable for Trey Savage. Um, and I'm gonna be on the record in stating I don't want Dylan Cease,
Okay.
only in the instance that my ifs, wants, and haves are shifting by the hour at this point, right? So my dream deadline, we'll do our dream deadlines, right?
Okay.
So Sandy Alcantara and Anthony Bender are my move, right? But I also want Ryan Helsley,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So if I'm going to be realistic, this is my realistic deadline if Sandy Alcantara not like an option.
Okay, let's do dream deadline and realistic deadline. Okay?
Okay.
So start with your dream, go to your real, and then I'll do the same.
So I have the Blue Jays making three moves.
Okay.
One with the Miami Marlins, one with the Chicago White Sox, and one with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Okay.
So the dream deadline for me is Sandy Alcantara, Anthony Bender, and Cash for Ricky Tiedemann, Adam Macko, Kasevich,
Yeah, Josh Kasevich. Yeah.
Josh, sorry, and two other prospects.
Okay.
Um, and
That's
that's
actually a pretty good package. Like if I'm the Marlins, I'm listening on that. That's a guy of Adam Macko who's a big lefty who has been very good on his run up. He did run into injury problems this year, so his last rehab starts were not great. Although his last start was 5 innings, one hit, and he's been looking really good. His changeup is coming together there. Ricky Tiedemann, we all know so you're getting two lefties, both of them in that AAA level that is right there. Josh Kasevich has been injured a lot of the season, but he is a stud, honestly.
yeah,
Underrated prospect for sure. And then if you're going with a couple of guys that are a little bit deeper down in the system, one of those number 30s or something like
yeah,
that, that's more of a lottery ticket. You know what? If I'm the Marlins, I'm listening to that,
yeah,
especially for a couple of guys that, are you close to winning as a Marlin franchise right now? I don't think you are. I like that. I like that proposal, man. And you're
yeah,
giving up some good stuff.
yeah. The next one is for the from the Chicago White Sox. I have Adrian Hauser as the long man.
Yeah.
Because going down the stretch, I have the Blue Jays going six-man rotation, right? So with Adrian Hauser, he fills a void for me going six-man rotation. But because Sandy Alcantara is in the picture, that comes a question, who comes out of the rotation,
Hmm.
right? So I want Adrian Hauser on this team. He's beaten us twice, and he
Hmm.
pisses me off every time.
He has found something since
Yeah,
getting picked up off waivers by the
Yeah,
White Sox.
he
It's
is.
funny
He
how
is.
bad he looked in Texas and then how he turned it around, and good on him. And I wouldn't be opposed to that at all. Definitely gives you some depth as well. You know, we were talking about how if you can't get that high end starter,
Yeah,
it would be nice to have a little bit of breathing room if somebody has, you know, an injury or something like that, you know, and Hauser's pretty good insulatory depth.
yeah. So I believe my last one I mentioned the Los Angeles Angels. I could be wrong. But the last player that I have the Blue Jays attempting to go out for would be Taylor Ward. Big left fielder, big power,
Yeah.
and with the lack of power, let's say, on this team, I want to see Taylor Ward being added, especially with the injury now to George Springer.
Hmm.
I do want to see the Blue Jays go out and get an outfielder because we don't know how long Springer's going to be out for,
Hmm.
right? I've suffered 37 concussions. If it is a concussion, we don't know, right? 96 off the dome isn't fun. I've had it
No, it's
twice,
not. Yeah.
right? So
No.
that's why I'm going Taylor Ward. Luis Robert is Luis Robert at this point. We don't know necessarily what you're getting out of him. That's why I want Taylor Ward because we know what you're getting.
Hmm.
You're getting at least a 25 homer guy, over 75 RBIs, and I think he'd fit. It
Yeah.
only depends the health of Anthony Santander
Hmm.
with that outfielder spot. So those are my three moves. Taylor Ward, Adrian Hauser, Sandy Alcantara, Anthony Bender.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
And yeah. Um I'm mix I'm gonna mix like some a realistic deadline just to finish it off. Adrian Hauser, Taylor Ward, and I'm steering away from the obvious names like the David Bednars
Yeah.
and and Pirates and all of that. That's why I'm going Duran from the Giants.
Interesting.
Um, because of the Sir Anthony Dominguez acquisition. It
Which I love, by the way.
I love it. I love that one. I wanted Gregory Soto more, but because I want flexibility in the pen with another lefty.
Yeah.
But
That said, Brandon Little has been so good.
and that's
And
exactly it. I don't want to rely so much on Brandon Little
yeah,
because of the comparison between him and Tim Mason. Look
yeah.
at what happened to Tim Mason, right? So hopefully the wheels don't fall off there, but
It took 4 years for
it
the
took
wheels
four
to fall
years,
off
right?
Tim
So
Mesa. So that's the dream is that we've got time here.
yeah. So though those are my three moves. Hauser, Ward, and Duran Delan. Forget the name from the Giants, but
Hmm.
their closer uh,
Yeah.
is my three moves for both dream and realistic. So
I think that that's a pretty solid trade deadline. I would be into that 100%. I go a little bit differently than you do. So dream scenario, okay? And I don't care which of these guys it is. I
right,
would absolutely love Joe Ryan, Mackenzie Gore,
yeah,
or Sandy Alcantara. I know that that's going to cost Arjun Namala and Trey Savage almost for sure in either of those scenarios. Maybe not for Alcantara. Maybe you can wind up massaging it a little bit, and maybe a Ricky Tiedemann and like a Gage Stanifer and like some of these other like depth pitching pieces have some interest to them, especially with their youth. So if we can get one of those top rotation guys, Ryan Helsley's also on my list. I would love to add one more deep bullpen piece. Mike Soroka would be a fantastic add, in my opinion, where you can either go to him when it comes to lower leverage bullpen moments, or if you need some depth in the starting rotation, he's another guy that you know Hauser esque,
yeah,
where you can kind of like yo back and forth between the bullpen and the starting rotation if you need to. And then as for a bat, like listen, My opinion is changing as more and more stuff is coming out about this Cleveland Guardians stuff,
Stephen
and it
Kwan.
is just wild, and it does make you wonder, how deep does this go? Like Luis Ortiz and Emmanuel Clase are not nobodies.
Nope.
So if they're investigating more pitchers, do hitters know? How deep does this thing go within the Guardians organization? And is that a red flag? Do you even want these type of guys? Because I wanted Stephen Kwan, and I know that it seems redundant, but my
Yeah.
God, Quan at the top of this lineup definitely lengthens the batting order. I know we're running out of time here, but
No worries.
I
No
I
worries. You're good.
gotcha. So like I would have said Stephen Kwan, but with all of those question marks around what's happening in Cleveland right now, I do lean towards a Taylor Ward, and I think you are correct in the assumption that maybe the Blue Jays front office wasn't all in on a bat at the time, and now with all these question marks around and concussions, you nailed it, buddy. It is a big question mark. It's really hard to project when a guy or how much time a guy is going to miss. So with
Mhm.
Kirky on the IL with a concussion, with the big question marks around Springer right now, with the fact that Tony Taters isn't even swinging a bat right
Yeah.
now, maybe they are in on a hitter, and maybe they are looking a little bit higher end on the market than we were expecting them
Yeah.
to. So I would love a Taylor Ward, definitely add some power to the middle of this order. So that's kind of the dream scenario for me.
Mhm.
More likely, all the starter talk I just had, scratch that right off the list.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, realistically, I think they don't even get a starter unless it's somebody of that Adrian Hauser, Mike Soroka type of guy where it's like more of a depth piece and
Right.
also can be put into the bullpen. Then they're going to go out and get another bullpen piece.
Yeah.
Whether it's a Bender, whether it's a Ryan Helsley, whether it's a Johan Duran, I think that they are shopping at the top end of that market. And I
Mhm.
do think that they're going to land another guy in that same ilk
Realm.
as Sir Anthony Dominguez, which I just love. I love Dominguez. I've always loved him. I love his stuff. I love saying his name. It feels like he's knighted, right? Sir
Yep.
Anthony
Sir Anthony
Dominguez.
Dominguez.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the next 48 hours play out. I am actually shocked that we haven't seen more on this trade deadline, and I think it goes to show you how close and how much parity there is in the league right now that some of these teams are holding on to whether they're a buyer or a seller
Mhm.
right to the last minute, right? And that's the AL Central of it all.
Yeah, and I'm honestly not surprised about
No,
about the lack of movement. I think a lot of movement's going to happen within the next 2 days,
yeah.
right?
Tomorrow's going to be insane.
Tomorrow's going to be insane,
We might not
but
even see anything else, maybe only a few peripheral moves today, which talk about down to the wire cuz you
because
know
you're
darn
wanting to
well
up
teams are bolstering.
desperation, right?
Yeah.
You're wanting to up the desperation factor,
Mhm.
right? So, to be honest, I'm not surprised about the lack of movement up to this point
Mhm.
because with this front office, I'm just using the Jays as the example here. They try to get some stuff done like earlier in the season and then plug holes right as the deadline goes off,
Mhm.
right? So with that being the example, look at where we're at now. We have some holes.
Mhm.
We have a hole filled with Dominguez. Now let's see where what situations happen from there. But yeah, overall, those are my thoughts. Um, the one last bit, if we can, what are your thoughts on Sonny Gray from the St. Louis Cardinals?
I would be all into Sonny Gray. And I think that is an under the radar get that people aren't talking about. And if I know anything about this front office, is that we very well could be blindsided with the moves that this front office makes, right? They may wind up going a little bit off the board and taking somebody that maybe hasn't been talked about much.
And
And I mean,
that's
this is what
exact.
happened with Jose Barrios,
Yep.
right? Like you just sometimes you just don't see it coming. It's easy to sit there and talk about the guys that are constantly talked about and be like, I want Joe Ryan, I want Sandy Alcantara, but
Yeah.
like, maybe they do find a partner that just
That,
wasn't on the board.
that's why I'm wondering if the Halsey option, if you go Halsey and Gray, what do you give up?
It's a good question. I mean, there's going to be some top end prospects in that scenario. So,
Yeah.
um, my guess is if you're talking Sonny Gray, who has playoff experience, has been that shutdown guy, and is incredibly deceptive, and would definitely be. I think he'd be our ace. I think he'd be the top guy in this rotation right now. And Helsley is not as dominant as maybe he was in 2024, but my goodness, he's still putting up a very good season. And I don't know if he slots in as the closer, but you have that option, right? So, like, let's say you're in a scenario where Jeff Hoffman has had one of his blowups. And
Mm.
Hoffman has been so dominant this year. What's a bummer is that when he's not dominant, whew,
Yeah. It'll, yeah.
he definitely has given up more long balls than us Jays fans would want to see
Yeah.
from him. That said, he's at what, 25, 26 saves and
Yeah.
at the top of the closing statistics, right? Like it's tough to like sit here and be like, Jeff Hoffman sucks, we need better than him. There's not really that much better out there, but if you do give John Schneider another tool in his toolbox where he can kind of go on the scenario, go on the matchup, go on what's happening in that moment right at that second, right? Then it does open up that ability to, yeah, if you look at what's going on paper and you're like, you know what, this guy doesn't hit Helsley very well. We can bring him in the eighth inning to face the middle of the order, and then maybe you're using Hoffman with the softer underbelly of a lineup, right? Maybe that 6, 7, 8 just profiles better with Hoffman's skill set.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. It just gives Big John more options, and I think
Yep.
that that's what this bullpen needs right now.
Yeah. Definitely agree. So on that note, I'm gonna wrap things up here there, Scott. Thank you very much for coming on here. I hope you have
Peter, this was so fun, man.
yeah,
Honestly, reach out anytime. I
yeah.
love talking Blue Jays, and I'm happy to help you out here.
Alrighty, perfect. Take care, okay? Bye now.
Cheers, buddy. Go Jays.
Go Jays.